Have you ever paused to ask why school felt more like a holding cell than a launch pad? From the moment you first took a step, someone else was scripting your journey, feeding you dreams, fears, even who you ought to become. You were curious, open, eager to learn. They knew exactly when to strike, before you could think for yourself. And your parents? They didn't stand a chance either, caught in the same well-intentioned machinery that quietly shaped every generation before you. Every bell that rang, every worksheet handed out, every pithy slogan you repeated wasn't innocent. It was an exquisitely tuned system of control, engineered over centuries to produce compliant, predictable adults. Standardized tests measure obedience, not creativity. Textbooks teach you what to think, not how to question. Even the food in the cafeteria, the shows on TV, and the words you speak all reinforce the same programming. Stay small, stay safe, stay in line. But here's the secret they never want you to uncover. This conditioning doesn't have to define you. You weren't born to be a cog in someone else's machine. You were born to be the author of your own story. It all starts with waking up to the lie. Some people break free at 18, some at 40. Many never do. But you're here now. You're ready to see that freedom they sell you is an illusion, a shiny trap designed to keep you paying tuition, obeying authority, and living inside carefully drawn boundaries. So what if school never ended? What if you stayed in that loop forever? Without real purpose, it would become a house of detention, not attention. And that's exactly the point. A lifetime of being taught what to think instead of how to think. Today, you can flip the script. You can question every rule, every lesson, every word they've drilled into you. You can unlearn the obedience reflex and rediscover your own voice. You can choose curiosity over compliance, authenticity over approval. Because the greatest lie ever told was convincing you that you were free. The ultimate act of rebellion. Realizing you never stopped being the student. Only now, you get to teach yourself. From your very first day in class, you were coaxed into conformity, trained to sit still, raise your hand, recite the right answers. Authority loomed large, individuality shrank. You weren't being nurtured, you were being prepped to fit a mold. As you moved up the ranks, the illusion of choice only deepened. Advanced courses, coveted degrees, student loans, each a strategic funnel into debt, into the workforce, into the very system that claims to uplift you. Every tuition check padded the pockets of bureaucrats and administrators, not your classroom experience. Meanwhile, your curiosity was siphoned off into standardized tests, your creativity muted by spreadsheets of metrics. Look closer. Our schools mirror prisons. Both are funded, or even expanded, based on headcounts, not breakthroughs. Both prioritize control and compliance far above genuine growth. In schools, you're rewarded for obedience. In prisons, for survival. Both systems profit from the illusion that you're free. Free to follow their rules, free to consume their services, free to tick their boxes. But it doesn't have to be this way. The first step toward true liberation is seeing the cage for what it is. That begins with childhood conditioning, how you learn to defer to authority, to swallow your questions, to suppress any spark of dissent. Those early lessons weren't about liberation, they were about compliance. Even the stories you absorbed, history's grand narratives, science's immutable facts, literature's approved heroes, were carefully selected to celebrate power and erase resistance. Conquerors become champions, rebels become villains. Your textbooks taught you who to admire and who to forget. Now, imagine reclaiming your mind. Start by questioning every lesson, every rule, every word you once accepted without thought. Ask yourself, who benefits when I stay silent? What truths have I been taught to discard? How might your education have trained you to limit yourself? Real freedom demands nothing less than total awareness and the courage to dismantle the programming that has held you small for so long. The moment you see the trap, you hold the key to walk out. It won't be easy. It will challenge everything you thought you knew. But nothing worth having ever comes without breaking the mold. And math, oh, how they robbed it of wonder. Remember when numbers danced and patterns clicked? They stripped away that beauty, boiling it down to cold formulas and insisting there's only one right answer. From day one, you weren't being taught to explore, you were being trained to comply. Fact after fact, rule after rule, memorize this, obey that. Curiosity, that was a threat. And those standardized tests, they promised you'd need long division when calculators were never far from reach, asserted you'd navigate the world by hand when GPS sits in your pocket. Those exams weren't about real-world readiness, they were compliance checkpoints. How well could you parrot back information? How quickly could you fit inside the lines? Creativity, innovation, critical thinking, those were the casualties of the assembly line. Dare to color outside the boundaries, and you were marked difficult. Then there's the bell. That shrill command has nothing to do with learning. It's classical conditioning straight from Pavlov. Ring, obey, repeat. You didn't move because you understood the lesson. You moved because you'd been programmed to. Every lunch bell, every end-of-class signal was another reminder. Your time belongs to someone else. Soon you stop noticing. Clock in, clock out, all part of the same score. That pattern follows you into adulthood. The 9-to-5 grind, the meeting schedule, the office hours that dictate your every breath. You trade your freedom for someone else's agenda until you forget what it feels like to choose. And the craziest part? You believed it was normal. Here's the truth they've never shouted. This isn't education, it's conditioning, designed to produce predictable workers, obedient consumers, content citizens. You were taught to revere authority, not because it earned your respect, but because it wielded power. Question it, and you risked being branded a troublemaker. But you're awake now. You feel the disconnect. You see how they've boxed you in with bells and tests and single-answer problems. It wasn't an accident. It was a calculated system perfected over generations to sap your independence. So let that sink in. Every ring of that bell, every multiple-choice question, every required curriculum was a brick in your cage. And they never offered a key. But now you have one. Awareness. Recognize the script, understand the play, and step off the stage. Real learning, true liberation, happens when you reclaim your time, reshape your questions, and refuse to follow every ring of the bell. That's when you stop being a product of the system and start living by your own design. They taught you to fear authority and to see obedience as the highest virtue. Every mistake was punished, every risk discouraged. Grades became medals of external approval, training you to crave praise instead of trusting your own instincts. That fear of failure locked you into safe, predictable behaviors they could control. But the real conditioning didn't end in the classroom. As soon as you left school, media and entertainment took over. Every cartoon, every movie, every song whispered the same lessons. Conform, obey, repeat. Heroes never question the system, they defend it. Their greatest triumph is restoring order, sacrificing personal freedom for the greater good. Villains, on the other hand, are portrayed as dangerous anomalies, rebels to be feared, outcasts to be shunned. Question the rules, and you're cast as the bad guy. This isn't storytelling by accident, it's psychological engineering. Think back to childhood favorites, the noble king dispensing justice from his throne, the brave knight saving the day. Notice how rarely the underdog overturns the hierarchy. Disney's fairy tales taught you that royalty is inherently good, that social ranks are natural and deserved. Born to rule becomes a comforting myth, while the rest of us are meant to serve. And those Saturday morning cartoons, branded commercials in disguise, each catchy theme song, every colorful toy tie-in, drilled home a message. Your worth is measured by what you own. You learn to chase plastic happiness, action figures, princess dolls, sugar-fueled cereals, believing that the next purchase would finally fill the emptiness inside. Fast forward to your adult self. You're still buying the lie. New gadgets, new clothes, new apps, fleeting highs that never last. They've programmed you to equate self-worth with consumption, to mistake the dopamine hit of owning for genuine fulfillment. It's a brilliant, ruthless system. You remain dependent on their products, their brands, their world. But here's the kicker. None of it has to define you. The same system that taught you obedience can't stop you from waking up. Awareness is your weapon. Recognize these patterns. See the hero's blind loyalty, the villain's feared questioning, the empty promise of the next purchase. When you strip away the conditioning, you reclaim your freedom. Refuse to let your worth be set by grades, ratings, or price tags. Celebrate mistakes as proof that you're alive. Question the status quo, even if it casts you as difficult. Choose authenticity over approval. And the next time you feel the pull to buy, pause. Are you filling your life or surrendering it? Or, this is bigger than nostalgia or brand loyalty. It's about dismantling the mental cage built around you, brick by scripted brick, and stepping into the life you were always meant to lead. Have you ever stopped to realize just how deep they've wired you? Beyond school walls, beyond catchy jingles, even into the very food you inhale and the air you breathe. It isn't accidental that your childhood thrill over a Happy Meals toy was yoked to nuggets and fries engineered to hijack your brain's reward circuits. That tiny plastic hero in your hand sparked dopamine hits, not just from the cartoon, but from the sugar-fat-salt cocktail on your tongue, locking you into cravings long after the toy was lost. Fast food behemoths didn't invent innocence, they harnessed it. They knew that once kids form an emotional bond with a character, they'll chase that glow with every bite. Happy Meals aren't meals at all. They're psychological ambushes, fusing consumption with joy, novelty with urgency. Collect them all, they roar, training you that missing out equals misery. By adulthood, you find comfort in the drive-through, not out of need, but habit. You're not weak. You're a graduate of the same program, and food is merely one front in a war on your autonomy. Step back and you'll see. Every holiday ritual, every norm, every piece of advice handed down. Don't talk back. You'll thank me later. That's just the way it is code, not cuddles. They're commands. Silence your doubts. Defer to authority. Obey the script. Culture isn't a spontaneous blossom of shared values. It's a factory run by corporations, politicians, elites who profit from your predictability. Christmas isn't about magic or family. It's become an annual binge of buying, a multi-billion-dollar ritual that equates generosity with retail therapy. Traditions are no more sacred than a marketing campaign. They exist to corral your choices, to make you predictable. And the words themselves, they're the software. Be a good boy or girl. Translation, erase your voice. Mind your own business. Translation, don't question power. We're doing this for your own good. Translation, trust us. We know better. Each phrase is a micro command buried in your brain, tightening invisible chains around your sense of self. But here's your breakthrough. None of it defines you unless you let it. Awareness is your first act of rebellion. The moment you see the wiring, you can start cutting the cords. You don't have to follow the script they handed you at birth. You can reclaim your senses, your curiosity, your very humanity. So, unlearn. Question every norm. Taste your food without autopilot. Ask yourself, who benefits from my holiday spending? Which words keep me shrinking, and which ones could set me free? This isn't a theory. It's your invitation to wrest control from the puppeteers and finally become the author of your own life. Your value has been engineered to hinge on obedience, not on your unique spark. From your first school bell to corporate buzzwords like team player or stay in your lane, every phrase is a subtle command. Don't rock the boat. Don't ask why. Don't challenge the script. By the time you're old enough to question the world, those commands are so deeply wired that speaking up feels wrong, taboo, even dangerous. Look at our most sacred rituals. The Pledge of Allegiance. Hand over heart. Recite words you don't understand, day after day, until blind loyalty to the state feels as natural as breathing. Christmas. From toddlerhood, you learn that joy arrives in shiny red boxes, courtesy of Santa, the ultimate authority figure who rewards good children and sidelines the rebellious. Weddings? Supposedly about love, but really about following a script, dress code, vows, guest list. Cross the line, and you become the outcast. Each ritual trains you to conform, punishing divergence with isolation or shame. Then there are the labels, a student with potential or a C student at risk, high performer or mediocre. Your worth becomes a grade on someone else's scale. No wonder most adults can't imagine success as anything other than meeting external benchmarks, whose definition you never chose. This isn't coincidence. Corporations thrive on your unthinking consumerism. Governments rely on your unquestioning loyalty. Social media platforms harvest your need for likes to reinforce conformity algorithms. Every holiday ad, every sales pitch, every triumphant anthem is a spell reinforcing. Don't think, just consume, conform, comply. Ask yourself, how many times have you followed the script without pausing to ask, why? How many traditions, phrases, habits have you accepted as normal when they were really handcuffs disguised as culture? Here's the breakthrough. Awareness is your rebellion. The moment you see the wiring, you can start to cut the cords. You don't have to obey the unspoken rules that keep you small and predictable. You can reclaim your life by refusing to perform the role assigned to you. Question every ritual. Why does the bell command my feet? Notice every label. Which grade did I accept as my worth? Unlearn every phrase that equates silence with virtue. Real freedom demands you rewrite your own script, one where obedience isn't the end goal, but curiosity and courage are. It won't be easy. You'll feel the pull of muscle memory compliance, the shame of stepping outside the ritual. But each time you choose your own path over the programmed one, you reclaim a piece of yourself. You are not here to fit in. You're here to break out. Have you ever paused to realize how every step of your life, every lesson learned, every reward earned, was quietly shaping you into a compliant cog, primed to seek approval from the very systems that keep you small? From that first gold star in kindergarten to every like on Instagram, you were taught your worth depends on meeting someone else's standards. That rush of praise wasn't encouragement, it was conditioning. And as you aged, the stakes only climbed. Diplomas, promotions, mortgages, perfect vacation photos, each one a fleeting hit of validation, always chased but never enough, because the bar keeps rising. Failure, meanwhile, isn't framed as a stepping stone, but as a scarlet letter. Remember how one lousy test score felt like the end of the world? That shame wired you to avoid risk at all costs. As adults, it morphs into a silent prison, shackling dreams and silencing your voice. Every "what if I mess up" is a chain forged by years of being rewarded for obedience and punished for dissent. Look closer. This isn't just about school or social media. It's a multi-trillion-dollar ecosystem built on your insecurities. Self-help gurus sell shortcuts to confidence. Pharma pushes pills to dull the anxiety the system itself creates. Media peddles constant scarcity to keep you scrambling. Conformity feels safe because the alternative, authentic freedom, has been cast as risky, even reckless. But here's the breakthrough. The moment you see the cage, you hold the key. Question every ritual, every ritualized phrase, every high-score collapse. Ask yourself, why do I accept their version of success? Whose approval am I really chasing? Real liberation begins when you stop measuring yourself by their yardstick and start setting your own. Reframe rewards. Celebrate every misstep as data for growth. Reclaim your narrative. Swap out "I need their validation" for "I trust my instincts." Reject the scarcity script. Remind yourself there's more than enough room in this world for your unique voice. This won't be easy. You'll feel the pull of muscle memory compliance, the tremor of doubt. But every time you choose your own course over the programmed one, you reclaim a piece of yourself. You weren't born to be small. You were born to expand. And now that you see the programming for what it is, the only question left is, will you break the cycle and write your own rules? Think about your workplace. How often have you swallowed your real opinions, your ideas, your candid feedback, just to keep the peace? Authenticity gets traded for acceptance, and in that trade we lose our spark. But this isn't just an individual cost. It's a collective one. A world full of people who fit the mold is a world where creativity, innovation, and real progress quietly die. Ask yourself, how many of your choices, where you work, how you act, what you fear, are genuinely yours? The system has been programming you since before you could speak, training you to remain predictable, compliant, profitable. Here's the secret they don't want you to know: that very programming can be undone. These are not permanent chains, only habits. And habits can be broken. It starts with awareness. Notice the narratives you've inherited about success, love, failure. Write them down. Trace them back. Did they originate in your own experience, or were they drilled into you by schools, ads, well-meaning parents? The moment you see how these stories were implanted, you gain the power to disrupt them. Next, create a gap between stimulus and reaction. When you feel that familiar tug, to fit in, to avoid risk, pause. Ask yourself, what am I proving and to whom? Reframe your fear of failure as fuel for learning. This mistake isn't a verdict, it's the lesson I needed. Curate your mental diet too. Social feeds are engineered to keep you scrolling, craving the next hit of validation. Ask, what emotion is this content trying to trigger in me? And then choose deliberately. Pick art, music, stories that elevate you instead of programs that keep you tame. Build real connections, friends who challenge you to live your truth, not just applaud your performance. Authentic bonds remind you that your value isn't measured in likes or lip service. And remember, individual awakening is just the beginning. True power comes when we come together, united by purpose, refusing the isolation that keeps us divided. The system feeds on our distraction and our silence. Collective action starves it. So let this be your call to arms. Wake up, speak out, sync up. Reclaim your autonomy, rewrite the scripts you never chose, and together forge a world where authenticity isn't a risk, but the rule. No, the true adversary isn't each other, but the machinery of unchecked capitalism, a system that rewards hoarding, locking most of us into endless debt and bare survival, while a tiny elite spiral ever upward. Schools, media, and markets train us to consume and conform, numbing our capacity to dream beyond their narrow corridors. Imagine a world where our energy flows not into corporate coffers, but into local cooperatives, community projects, and shared enterprises built on trust, creativity, and mutual aid. Every dollar you withhold from exploitative giants and redirect toward a neighbor's startup, a worker-owned co-op, or a grassroots initiative is a vote for a different economy. Picture networks of independent publishers, podcasters, and filmmakers telling new stories of solidarity, of abundance without extraction, of stewardship rather than ownership. These narratives seed a culture of collective responsibility, where success is measured not by balance sheets, but by well-being and ecological harmony. Now envision solidarity hubs, pop-up learning circles, digital forums, art collectives, where questioning the status quo is the default setting. Here, failure isn't punished, but studied. Curiosity is currency, and authenticity is the highest honor. Every courageous choice, choosing community over convenience, creating rather than consuming, speaking truth to entrenched power, coalesces into a tide that no corporate leviathan can hold back. As more of us step off the treadmill of debt and distraction, we weave a new social fabric, decentralized, cooperative, regenerative. This isn't utopian fantasy. It's already happening in villages reclaiming local food systems, in blockchain projects reimagining finance, in mutual aid networks rebuilding care from the ground up. These are the blueprints for replacing isolation with interdependence, scarcity with shared abundance. The enemy's greatest weapon is our silence and our sense that real change is impossible. Dismantling their systems means refusing to feed them, redefining success, rechanneling our resources, reclaiming our narratives, and reconnecting as equals rather than consumers. Will you keep lending your energy to structures that confine you? Or will you join the architects of a new reality? One built on trust, creativity, and collective freedom. The choice is yours, and the moment is now. These interconnected systems, education, economy, media, culture, were never innocent. They're scaffolds built to distract, divide, and keep you dependent. Real change demands tearing them all down simultaneously. Reclaim your mind. Our schools preach obedience over inquiry, churning out compliant workers instead of independent thinkers. Imagine classrooms that spark curiosity, not conformity, where young minds learn to question rather than memorize. When education serves liberation instead of indoctrination, it chips away at the system's foundations. Redefine wealth. The current economy thrives on manufactured scarcity and extraction. What if we prioritized well-being, fairness, and cooperation over profit margins? True economic freedom isn't about amassing cash. It's liberation from the fear that you'll never have enough. Every dollar you recast toward local co-ops and shared enterprises is a vote for a more humane world. Reframe the narrative. Today's media machine sells division and despair, weaponizing headlines to shape our fears and loyalties. But narrative is power. When we retake the story, amplifying tales of solidarity, abundance, and stewardship, we dismantle the propaganda and plant the seeds of collective awakening. Vote with your life. Systems survive on our silence and compliance. Refuse to feed them. Spend your time, money, and attention on causes aligned with your values. Boycott the exploiters. Invest in the innovators. Your daily choices are ballots cast for the future you want. Rewrite your inner script. From childhood, you were wired to seek approval, fear rejection, and equate worth with conformity. Recognition is only the first step. True freedom comes when you replace those programmed beliefs. Turn "I must fit in to succeed" into "my uniqueness is my strength." Catch your fears, guilt, and anger as manipulative hooks, then choose the empowering response. Master your emotions. The system trades in fear, guilt, and shame to keep us fragmented. Resilience isn't about burying those feelings. It's about understanding them, refusing to be hijacked, and refocusing on what truly matters. Celebrate imperfection. Value progress over perfection. Gratitude reprograms your brain toward abundance, fracturing the scarcity narrative they drilled into you. Redefine success. Society's metrics, status, possessions, followers, aren't your only options. Ask yourself, am I living by my own definition of success or chasing someone else's scoreboard? Choose inner fulfillment over external applause. Cultivate simple joys, nurturing relationships, and passions that resonate with your core. Act courageously. Inner work is vital, but it must spill into bold action. Limit exposure to manipulative media. Walk away from toxic environments. Surround yourself with people who champion authenticity and critical thought. Align every choice, what you buy, whom you support, how you spend your time, with your emergent vision. Discover your purpose. Freedom is the ultimate power. The system may have shaped you, but it doesn't own you. Each fear you conquer, each authentic choice you make chips away at its control. True revolution starts not in distant battlegrounds, but within your own mind and heart. Your purpose isn't handed down. It's uncovered as you strip away the illusions they taught you to chase. This is your inner uprising. Will you continue to march to their script, or will you begin writing your own? Have you ever noticed how every should you carry is a silent command? You should go to college. You should settle down by 30. You should climb the corporate ladder. Those shoulds aren't your truth. They're a blueprint for compliance, drawn up by a system that profits when you stay predictable and small. Question every should. What dreams did you shelve because they didn't fit someone else's timeline? What passions have you muted to hit a milestone you never chose? Start by interrogating each should that governs your life. Why do I have to follow this path? What would I do if I ignored that rule? Strip away the weight of expectations, and you'll unearth desires that are truly yours. Reconnect with your authentic self. Years of conditioning bury your real instincts under layers of right and wrong. To rediscover what truly moves you, try new experiences that spark curiosity. Dust off long-forgotten hobbies and explore them again. Honor failure as a signpost, not a dead end. Authenticity isn't a fixed target. It emerges as you experiment and evolve. Live by your values, not by default. Once you've identified your core passions, reshape your daily life around them. This isn't about shirking responsibility. It's about choosing commitments that feed your purpose. Cull obligations that feel draining or hollow. Practice minimalism as clarity, not deprivation. Make room for what truly matters: your creativity, your relationships, your growth. Inspire collective freedom. Living authentically doesn't just transform your world, it lights a spark in others. Each time you choose integrity over convenience, you demolish a fragment of the old narrative. and you invite someone else to do the same. Share your story openly, your victories, your stumbles, your lessons. Support creators and projects that champion autonomy and critical thought. Build communities, online or in person, where questioning the status quo is the norm, not the exception. Embrace the ripple effect. Every small act of defiance, saying no, spending consciously, telling your truth, ripples outward, weakening the systems that depend on your silence. Imagine a world where millions of us reclaim our stories, redefine success, and stand together in freedom. That world begins with the choices we make today. Your next step. What will you retire? Which buried passion will you revive? Drop your answer below and join our movement. Let's shatter the molds they cast for us and build a reality that honors our true selves, together. If this resonated, hit like, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more deep dives into the truths they don't want you to know. Our journey has only just begun. Let's keep breaking free, one choice at a time.